And good morning to you, Bruce McAvaney. Well, what a scene we have here at Lakeside Raceway in Brisbane this morning. It's round 5 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship this afternoon. And after many months of trying to get pole position, Dick Johnson finally achieved that yesterday. But it hasn't worked out too well for him this morning, Alan Moffat.
No, he's gone down to the back of the grid. But still, anything can happen in the race itself, in the dash.
Well, of course, Johnson had 2 cars on the grid. They passed around the Peter Jackson draw cards this morning. As you can see, Colin Bond. Look at the delight on Colin Bond's face. Absolutely ecstatic. He has gone from the back of the grid to the front of the grid this morning. And that's going to make life almost impossible for Johnson.
Well, I think it's going to be tough, and we must remember, for the benefit of the people tuning in for the first time, that the tires they run in this Peter Jackson dash this morning, they must run in the 2 heats this afternoon. So they don't want to drive their cars into the ground, and I think Dick will have to suffer and hope to maybe pick up a couple of spots at the best.
Well, the Nissans carry an extra 100 kilos of weight. It has shown not one Nissan in the top 6. In fact, let's take a look at the grid, the way they line up for the Peter Jackson Dash this morning. Pole position has gone to Colin Bond in the Caltex CXT Sierra, starting out of position 2, and the second fast qualifier, John Bow in the Shell Sierra. Third, keep an eye on 61, Thomas Mazira in the Holden Racing Team Commodore from 4.25. Local prospect, Tony Longhurst from 5.17, Dickie Johnson. Tears and not much joy. And rounding out the 6 in the Castrol Commodore, it's Larry Perkins. And here we have the cars on the racetrack at the moment, with Colin Bond assuming the role of pacemaker. Sharing the front row with Colin, of course, John Bow, Mazira and Longhurst row 2, and Dick Johnson, Larry Perkins in row 3. And Dickie Johnson, of course, we join with Racecam very quickly. Morning, Dick.
Morning, Mike.
This is not where you wanted to start after battling all day for pole.
Oh, you just can't help bad luck, can you?
I guess reasonably, can you pick up a third out of this?
Well, I suppose I could only hope for it. That's the main thing. I think it's just a matter of the left side got a little bit damaged yesterday from a Toyota Corolla, so God only knows what might happen in the next 3 laps.
Tyres good?
Tyres are fantastic.
Okay, we're going to come ride with you in the Dunlop race cam. Good luck, son.
Thanks, pal.
Coming down the hill off the Motorcraft Hill, the pace car goes to the pits. 3 laps. The result of this race determines the starting lineup for the twin races this afternoon that you'll be seeing on our same-day coverage when Gary Wilkinson joins us from Lakeside Raceway. And here they come down the start-finishing straight. And they're underway. John Bow getting away very smartly from Colin Bond. Just look at them work their way through the kink here. Longhurst up, and there is Mazira. He's got it around sideways, fastest corner.
We got cold tires there, Mike, and that's a very fast left-hander off the pit straight at Lakeside. And Thomas, there's even a wiggle out of Colin. These fellows are all wanting to protect their tires a bit, but certainly a casual pace lap doesn't quite get the heat into them that they'd like. And Thomas
paid the penalty there. There's Johnny Bow coming out of hungry corner. Bond in the Caltex CXT Sierra sits right behind him. Up on the inside comes Perkins as they go. We'll look at the Racecam replay. As we ride down into the first corner there, as Mazira gets it loose, the tail has gone here, and he's out into no man's land.
Looks like they almost touched there as they squeezed 3 deep through the kink. Thomas Mazira goes off into the dust. He wouldn't be enjoying that. But back at the front, John Bow, he's really been the pace man in this Dash for Cash series. And behind him, Colin Bond, the man who won here in 1990, came right out of the blue. He seems to enjoy Lakeside, and he's doing well again this weekend.
Bondi's got that Caltex Sierra going very well. It was running well all season, handling-wise, and Lakeside a good handling circuit, Mike, and he's capitalizing on these fast, twisty part of the circuit here across the back.
He's also got Tony Longhurst making a killer move down here. Will he go to the inside? Here he comes up. No, Colin protects that. A little defensive driving there, perhaps. Gives him the outside of the front row for the main. So no one really wants to give second away to third and start in the second row off Motorcraft Hill again, coming down the hill.
Well, Longhurst would love to get onto the front row for the main heat, but I don't think he's going to do anything silly to get by here. He's got his memories of Winton still in his mind, I'm sure.
1 lap to go. Pressure on now as Colin Bond tries to close it up behind John Bow in the Shell Sierra. Then it gets interesting with Longhurst, Larry Perkins, who's done a marvellous job, and Dick Johnson, running our Dunlop race cam, comes out of the right-hander. And Dick, I think, is almost resigned to the third row for the start this afternoon. I come down beneath the Dunlop Bridge now. That's the order. Crowd think this is marvellous. And look at Longhurst, the big move on the outside. Can he do it? No. Can he get it back on the inside coming out of here? He's closed up the options. He'll go the outside, not the place to park. He's got to get back to the inside here as they come out of the corner, and he won't have enough throttle to be able to get down the inside of Colin Bond. And looks like that's the way they're going to finish. The Peter Jackson Dash coming to you from Lakeside Raceway in Queensland as they come across the pole. And it'll be John Bowe first, second spot to Colin Bond, and Tony Longhurst finishing back there in third. I think that would make John Bowe a fairly happy chap. And let's go down to Mark Osler, who's with our Peter Jackson Dash winner.
John Bowe, winner of the Dash for Cash once again. Gee, you seem to like this lottery qualifying system.
Well, I didn't like it earlier in the season because I kept mucking it up myself, but that time I got a good start, and obviously the guy in front really has got an advantage, so, you know, it's good to capitalise on it.
Mark Osler there with a very happy John Bowe. Good to see him with some good luck.
Well, he's had a bad time most of the season so far in the Dash, Mike. It's good to see him get a good run today.
Well, that means we're going to have Sierras on the front row today with John Bowe and, of course, Colin Bond. Right behind them will be Tony Longhurst, and then, of course, come the Sierras. Don't forget to join our coverage this afternoon, 2 hours in most states. We look forward to your company then.
Thanks for that, Mark Raymond. Just check your
independent rear suspension.
Colin Bond starts on the outside of the front row in the Caltex Sierra. On the inside of row 2, Tony Longhurst in the B&H BMW. Larry Perkins starts out of position number 4 in car number 11. Dick Johnson out of 5 in car number 17. From position 6, it's Thomas Mazzera in the Commodore. From 7, Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra. From 8, Alan Jones, the second of the B&H cars. From 9, 05, Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. And rounding out the 10, a long way back, Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan GTR. And I can't recall a race in the past couple of years where the Nissans have started so far back. Mark Osler, our man in the pits today. Mark, Freddie Gibson not too happy about the 100-kilo additional weight.
He's certainly not happy about it, Michael, and it's been a long time, as you say, since we've seen the Nissans out of the top 10. I think the accusations and the criticisms about Nissans sandbagging has really reached boiling point this weekend at Lakeside.
OK, Mark, we'll follow that, and you'll bring us all the action from the pits. There's our pole sitter by virtue of winning the Peter Jackson Dash this morning. It's John Bowe. And Colin Bond starting on the outside of the front row. That's a good qualifying effort and finishing effort this morning by Colin Bond. We're 10 seconds away from heat number 1, round 5 of the Shell Touring Car Nationals from lovely Lakeside. Off the line goes Bowe. See ya! Perkins down the outside. Longhurst goes after him. Mazzera tries to fight down the inside, as you'll see here. Mazzera in amongst a whole wall of cars, and there's one going out. Mark Gibson, the GIO Commodore. They parked the Nissan this weekend and elected to run with the Commodore. He'll need to get back on the track and in a hurry. Out of the carousel. Looks like Pitt Street Friday afternoon around 5 p.m. But it's Bowe in front. Moving up very quickly into the second spot was Larry Perkins, who got a brilliant start, Alan Moffat.
Yes, he did, mate, and Colin Bond absolutely stood on the start line. John Bowe got an immaculate start. Absolutely one of the best starts I've ever seen John take off the front row. But certainly Larry Perkins shot from the third row of the grid up into second spot, and he's going to be very hard to get by from Tony Longhurst.
Over the hill and down the other side. Here they come to rip off the first lap, and Wilco, it looks like the Dick Johnson team looking pretty sharp here.
Certainly are, Mike, and it was, as Alan said, terrible start by Colin Bond. He was absolutely swamped by Larry Perkins and by Peter Brock, who made a great start as well.
Looks like Dick Johnson may have a flat tyre. He's headed for the pits. Coming in for a quick changeover now. In goes Johnson, back in the lead. The race continues with John Bowe trying to fend off Larry Perkins. Move over, Henry. Here come the General.
He is all over Bowe like a ration. Look at Tony Longhurst just hanging in there waiting for either of these two in front to make a mistake. That's not likely, I wouldn't think, but he's hoping. And if he gets onto John Bowe's tail, well, memories of Winton will come flooding back.
Yes, but they better not come flooding back too quickly, because Winton cost Tony $5,000 for his efforts. For that. No, we can't get any closer than that. Larry is definitely, he's a charger this weekend. He's got the bit between his teeth. He was very proud of his position yesterday. Held off a reasonable position in the dash this morning. And here he is in the lead of a Group A touring car race. A great run, Larry Perkins.
Left rear on Dick's car, giving a problem.
They got a problem down there. We'll get an update.
Dick's finished.
Yeah, looks like Dick is ready to step out of the car. Mark Osler, we'll get a report from him.
Well, the high hopes of the Shell team today then riding on John Bowe, and he's the ham of the sandwich at the moment between Larry Perkins and Tony Longhurst. and Longhurst looking for another lunge. He'll miss out here, of course, as they come down to the main straight again. You'll find that the Sierra will pull away, and Tony will have to wait for another day, or another lap anyway, before he has another go.
Hopefully not the day. He's got a second heat to come later in our broadcast. We're on working lap number 12 here of heat number 1 at Lakeside. Round 5 of the Shell Touring Car Nationals. A very, very close contest. And if you're a general fan and love that throbbing sound of the V8, well, probably bringing tears to your eyes here today from Lakeside as Larry Perkins, one of the finest privateers, running in the Castrol Commodore, brings it down to Hungry Corner. Just a little lock up again.
Don't want to see too much of that. That's not going to hurt too much as long as he doesn't do it every lap. But John Bow's right on his hammer now. I think that my original forecast of Larry playing it a bit cool, he's hurting up across the top of the hill. I was going to say mountain, but the top of the hill. But he's certainly got it flying. You can see when he punches it coming down onto the main straight, the full force of that 500 horsepower, 550 horsepower V8 comes into play, and he's able to blast off John Bow down the straight.
Okay, they come out, the exit now to the carousel, not the best of days for Dickie Johnson. Let's go down to Mark Osler.
Dick Johnson, a great disappointment for you. First tyre trouble now, a mechanical problem it seems.
Yeah, it's obviously not my day. Yesterday probably was, but first of all, we had a flat tyre on the warm-up lap, which really screwed things up. And then I get back out there and the thing's going all right, and then I broke a half shaft on the rear. So
John's doing a terrific job out in the race still. Do you think the Shell Sierras are going to win this thing?
Well, I sincerely hope he does, because with the amount of effort that's gone in, all the guys deserve it.
Thanks, Dick.
Okay, that's the situation. Bit of work to do for the Johnson team for heat number 2 a little later.
That's the worst thing that can happen, a flat tire on the warm-up lap. You get all out of sync. Your tires that you've practiced with have been grooved in. They're matched to each corner, and they don't like a strange tire being put on after a warm-up lap. But here we got Larry Perkins still holding off in fine fashion. He's hurting through some of these tighter corners, but the speed with which he's got his Castrol Commodore coming onto the straight, I believe is going to be enough for him to hold off. He's got a nice advantage here still. It's not concerning him too much. He'll be nursing the car a little bit there. That's very hard on the right rear tire there. A little bit of a nurse here for his left rear tire, with a view to slingshotting himself onto the straight and using the tire up here. And you can see that little cushion of one car gap.
They come out of the turn, working the front straight here at Lakeside. Let's check them out for you on the Shell race score. Hey, it's a V8 day at Lakeside. Larry Perkins leads this little dude. John Bow on the Shell Sierra runs in second. Tony Longhurst is still there. Glenn Seaton runs in fourth. Mark Scaife rounds out the 5 in the Nissan, and we'll be back in just a moment. Side. Still can't work away at the inside here of John Bow. Bow is under increased pressure here in this opening heat today at Lakeside to the top of Motorcraft Hill. And you start to sense that Longhurst is on the move. Perkins about 3 car lengths in front of these two. Longhurst loses out a little in horsepower down the straight, but he'll sit in for the draft and the pull along. They'll come down to the kink and watch him start to pull up ground as soon as they head to the carousel. Here he comes now. From this point, as soon as Bow gets onto the brakes, Tony is right up behind him. Pokes the nose again down on the inside. Longhurst side by side, door handle to door handle here with John Bow, and passes him on the inside just as he gets beneath the Dunlop Bridge, runs downhill to Hungry Corner. Will Larry Perkins be next?
Superb driving, very, very patiently sat in the slipstream, and I believe John Bow just got a little bit wide coming out of the carousel, and that's all Tony Longhurst needed. He dragged him up across the roller coaster under Dunlop Bridge and nailed him down into Hungary, and now he's away. It's goodbye, John, for the rest of this heat, and it's now a question of getting on to Perkins' bumper bar, and he's got it all over to do again.
Oh, sorry, Gary.
Glenn
I noticed
Seaton doing a good job. Terrific job by Glenn Seaton, getting up to 4th place in the race. Still got a lot of work to do to haul in the top bracket. Mark Scaife, of course, running in 5th. Second of the BMWs, Alan Jones, slotted in right behind him. And then the rest of the Commodore brigade. Oh, getting very untidy there with pressure from Alan Jones. 16 laps gone.
AJ keeping right on the tail of Jimmy Richards' Winfield Nissan as they go beneath the Dunlop Bridge and come down. See Jonesy goes the inside. Yes, he does. So if we're seeing Tony on the outside and now Alan on the inside, great little passing area for the BMWs as the others stab the brakes and the cars get a little on the light side as they make the left-hander.
Well, they are the most nimble car in the field. They have to be by virtue of their weight, but let's not take anything away from the engineering under the bonnet and the superb chassis setting that the Longhurst team have put together. And Alan Jones is delighted with the way the car goes. Now, Tony will monster Larry. He won't put up with too much hindrance here, but by the same token, if he touches that Commodore, he's going to come off second best. That's 1,300 kilos of very firm metal sitting there.
Well, Larry's been all fired up here. Here comes Longhurst. Oh, got him. Yes, what a beautiful manoeuvre, and so simple the way he did it.
Well, the BMWs were outstanding here last year. They're carrying another 20 kilos more this year than last at this stage of the season. But Lakeside is home territory for Frank Gardner, Tony Longhurst and the Benson and Hedges team. And gee whiz, he's done a great job from the second row today after wearing down Johnny Bower and then Larry Perkins. Tony Longhurst comes flying through the kink here. Perkins in pursuit, followed by Bower, and then starting to make the run up to them will be Mark Scaife, who's got away, and on the outside of Thomas Mazera, it'll be Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. So the Nissan still in there with Mark Scaife. No sign at the moment of Peter Brock in the top six. They're down mobile team of fronted with one car this weekend. Very disappointing because they've run two cars, Peter Brock and Neil Crompton. Neil's just back from the States where he's been doing a lot of work with the American networks on a new exotic car series that will be going to air over there. And disappointing not to see him here today. They start with two cars for the season. It'd be great to see them run all the rounds. Looks like Terry Finnegan, the 27 car, that's gone off down there at the carousel and gets back on the racetrack. At least he's pointed in the right direction.
John Bower now having a go at Larry Perkins. As I said, Larry Perkins has been on fire here so far this week. He was certainly fired up at the post-practice press conference yesterday, gave the Nissan boys a serve. He's not too happy now about Tony Longhurst giving him the go-by, and John Bower's about to try and do the same thing to him. Poor old Larry, he's copping it from all sides.
I think his tires are probably hurting him just a little bit now, and bear in mind, this is a handful to drive a car of this weight around, and not that anybody else has got a free ride, but the roller coaster nature of Lakeside, the toing and throwing, the corners, they're not just flat. The car is falling one way or the other all the time, and it's a good driver that can hang on here and do well lap after lap.
Mark Scaife has really closed it up behind these boys. They come down the hill. John thought he may have left the gap open, but there was no such luck there because Perkins will get away on the straight. Brakes, as Alan has said, may well be the problem.
This
He's
is
just got to
very
conserve it.
This is very dangerous there, Michael, coming through that left-hander. They're doing over 220 Ks, and just the slightest amount of misjudgment. And John getting a little bit annoyed with Larry there. He's certainly...
Larry will drive him off the damn racetrack if he pulls too much of that stuff on.
Well, that allowed Mark Scaife to move up one notch.
That cost John his endeavor there. He's pushed the front guard onto his own tire. He got a little annoyed. He didn't show the patience that Tony Longhurst exerted and had to put up with for many laps. And you just can't nudge.
We take our race cam sitting on the top of Glenn Seaton's Peter Jackson Sierra. He's mixed up in all of this. Oh, there goes one of those little Corollas, I think it was, off the racetrack, right caught up in that mass of cars.
Frank Binding.
Well,
he was out in the Binding.
Frank is out of harm's way there at the moment.
I'm very concerned about John Bow's tire. He must know himself. He can see that smoke. I hope he knows how much rubber is sitting on that Dunlop tire, but not the kind of place you want to have a blowout. But he's coming back at Larry. He's not giving up. He's going to try it again. And this time he's actually right up alongside. He's going to do the same move that Tony Longhurst executed and has managed to do it.
John gets through. Took him a lap and a bent fender to do it. Yeah. Well, by the time this one's over and he returns to the pits and Dick has a look at the problems with the 17 car, and then as squashed in guard on the 18. We're working lap number 23 here at Lakeside this afternoon. It's been a tremendous race so far. Larry Perkins providing a lot of the action for us. And Tony Longhurst, of course, getting through to take over the lead.
Perkins has got this Commodore flying absolutely in the two spots where it really has to fly, coming onto the straight and through that very fast left-hander on the main after the start-finish line. He's definitely a traffic hazard here, and the other fellows are molesting him.
That's Jonesy, who has just done a superb job in this one, the backup. He just loves his stuff. He can possibly get down. You can see him 2 cars ahead on the inside, and that's exactly what he did to Perkins. So Alan Jones storming through. He's been able to pass quite a number of them to get to the top of Motorcraft Hill. And as they come down off the hill, he's right on the tail now of Larry Perkins. And with about 5 laps to go, this race is far from over as Jonesy pulls to the outside of the Mark Gibbs car coming down the straight. And here's Larry and Mark Scaife debating issue.
Well, Larry's not going to give way, and I certainly hope that Mark knows how many millimeters he's got between his front wheels and Larry's rears. That's a hairy place to try a passing maneuver. There's a little bit more sane approach.
Yeah, Richards gets through and moves up another notch. Larry slipping back. So after leading for so much in the early part of the race, Larry Perkins finds himself well out of contention now.
So Richards down on the inside of the GIO Commodore. Glenn Seaton, the 30 car, to the top of Motorcraft Hill again. He's in amongst this dice as they come off the top of the hill. 4 laps to go. Tony Longhurst really opening up a big gap, and Alan Jones up into the top 5. There's AJ.
Well, they finished 1-2 here in the corresponding round last year, Longhurst and Jones.
There's our race leader, Tony Longhurst.
Just look at the car, Michael. It doesn't bobble, it doesn't move around. It's just perfectly designed. They've got it doing exactly what it needs to do. The driver's just in touch. It's as if he's glued to those 4 Yokohamas that are guiding him around here. And he'll be extremely exhilarated at the moment. He's not threatened in any way. He knows he can do it again in the next heat. And he'll be conserving his tires now, thinking about that second heat. He won't be hurting them at all. He'll just be gliding the car into these corners. He's got a maximum cushion here. He doesn't have to worry about a thing.
The great thing about this car is you can wind it up 100% and drive it 100% continually for the whole race.
Well, the other thing, of course, is that if you think it's been a long week for Nick Greiner, just think about Frank Gardner, where he's done the Touring Car Championship so far, and the BMs, apart from maybe 1 track or 2 tracks, are really competitive in this 25-lap, 25-minute race format. Lakeside, of course, was always going to be BMW territory, and, of course, the Johnson team. And at the moment, we're seeing a Longhurst run away from it, and Alan Jones, his race is far from over.
This is the battle for 3rd spot now. Alan Jones reeling in John Bauer, who must be running out of rubber on the left front after that touch with Larry Perkins a few laps ago.
Well, it stopped smoking, Gary, and I think as long as it stops smoking, it's probably the wear factor's gone as far as it's going to go. I think he is safe, but it looked a bit ominous there for a couple of laps. He was brave enough to stay out there, and I'll give him credit for that. You smell the smoke. It's bad enough smelling it, having to see it as well.
2 laps remaining.
Alan Jones closes up behind John Bauer as they come out of that turn and work down towards the Dunlop Bridge. Been a great race.
I think Alan Jones might be quite happy to be content with 3rd here. He knows he's got another heat in front of him. He's got a nice starting position for the 2nd heat. I don't think he's going to do anything silly here on this very last lap. He's not quite close enough to endanger John Bauer's position in any event. But a very nice run from John Bauer in the Shell Sierra to fight as hard as he could.
On their last lap, Tony Longhurst has already gone across the line. There's the board for the rest of them as they follow down into the carousel. John Bow still debating with Alan Jones. Terry Finnegan, the Foodtown Commodore, that had a spin early in the race. He's been able to get back out on the track and pick up a little bit of ground, but he's staying out of harm's way here at the moment. He didn't make life very comfortable for Alan Jones. Jones may have just been using him a little blocking here for the Richards and the Nissan.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that, and fair enough too. These fellas are not running around being lapped. They're fighting for positions, and they wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't drive as defensively as it demands, as the situation demands.
Coming off the hill now, we're looking for the checkered flag as they come down. Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges BMW. Ronnie Meacham will have a smile from ear to ear as they come across the line. The checkered flag is out. David and Goliath, round one here today, has gone to David. Across the line into second spot will be Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan. Third will be John Bow in the Shell Sierra. Alan Jones finishes fourth in the second of the B&H BMWs. Richards fifth, Seaton sixth, and Larry Perkins seventh. Checking those out there, the confirmation on our Shell race score. Congratulations, Tony Longhurst. Mark Scaife in second, John Bow third, Jones fourth, Richards fifth. We're preparing for Heat 2, Round 5 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Capacity field on the grid. What's that, a Brock Boater and a Dick Hat? Both supporting their loyal racers here this afternoon. Who knows who'll come up with victory. Let's take a look at the top 10, how they'll line up now for heat number 2 this afternoon. Tony Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges BMW has pole position over John Bow in the Shell Sierra, and row number 2 will be Alan Jones, the second of the Bimmers. Number 1, Jim Richards in the Winfield Nissan GTR. From 5, it's 30, Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra. Position 6, 23, Paul Morris, the third of the B&H BMWs. From 7, 8, Colin Bond, the Caltech CXT Sierra. From 8.05, Peter Brock, the Mobil 1 Commodore. 9.35, Wayne Park, the second Peter Jackson car. Now to 10.61, Thomas Nazera. Grid just about set. Right at the back this afternoon, Larry Perkins, Mark Scaife, Kevin Waldock, Terry Finnegan and Bob Jones, all because of tyres, Alan Moffat.
Yes, they've scuffed their tyres beyond repair in the first heat, and they've asked for replacement tyres. They've been granted that, but they suffer the indignity of starting from the back of the field, plus a 10-second delay. So we've got a double start.
Should be quite interesting in the middle stage. Stand by, Australia. We're ready to go racing with heat number 2 from round 5 at the lovely Lakeside Raceway. A long 10 seconds, but Bow gets off the line, and there goes Richards down the outside. See ya, boys. Four-wheel drive. Just zooms off the start as everyone thought he would. John Bow immediately drops into second. Next is Tony Longhurst, and right behind him is Alan Jones. Those starting from the back of the field have got a lot of work to do. They have to be careful in the opening couple of laps of this race. Perkins trying to come through the pack. There's Johnson. He's lined up in car number 17 after problems earlier today. They're through the carousel on their way to the Dunlop Bridge and the run downhill to the left-hander at Hungry Corner, and that's the entire field.
Brock got a good start there too. He's nailed up into 9th spot ahead of Mazera.
Jim Richards, a blinder though, and is pulling away. He's putting the boot right into the Winfield Nissan to make every post a winner here in the second heat, because he knows the BMWs are going to be coming home like steam at the end of this 28-lap race.
Home of the wet sail, as they say. I walk in here and ask the boys if they want to put some money on. I nominated Richards to win this one, and Alan Moffat, you wouldn't have a bar of it.
No, I wouldn't, and I must say I think I was asleep at the wheel a bit, Michael. There you've got some statistics I don't know. We're going to have to talk to our statistical division. You got inside information that I wasn't looking at. No, Jim Richards, a fine start off the second row to leap into the lead, and now Tony Longhurst has got the problem of having a heel. He's going to think this is an absolute nightmaresville. He's always behind John Bow to fight through. He's got to use himself up, use his tires up to get by John Bow, and while he's doing that, Richards has got a reasonably free run out in front.
Here's Paul Morris, the young Queenslander, running the third of the B&H BMWs. Came into the team this year under the patronage of Frank Gardner and Tony Longhurst. They took a guy out of the Formula Fords that had done so well in season 91, just to bring a new fresh face into touring car racing, and he is certainly responding here at Lakeside, his home track. Bow, Longhurst, the battle for second. 18 over 25 at the carousel. Richards running a steady pace just ahead of them, and these two guys have got to go to Richards. Jones back there in the 4th spot. That's the order beneath Dunlop Bridge, and the run downhill to Hungry Corner once again. And this is perhaps where Longhurst will be able to get John Bowe in a lap or two's time on the inside.
Well, it's really going to test Longhurst's patience here, because if he thinks Richards is getting away and if he feels that Bowe is holding him up, we're going to have a rerun of the situation we had at Winton, and he may not be able to maintain his cool.
Scaife up to 16th already after starting dead last in the field, or all but dead last, out of position number 22. So he's up 5. There's our race leader, Jimmy Richards. The Winfield Nissan coming down to the carousel. Behind him, John Bowe, and the man who copped $5 for giving the Tasmanian a helping hand at Winton.
Well, I would think that he's already agitated. Tony is like to be a little bit closer. I don't think he's too worried yet. We got over 25 laps to unfold here, but as Gary said earlier, he'll be watching that GTR in front and not wanting to be held up too long by John Bowe.
Well, race cam in Dick Johnson's car shows it all. As Johnson gets away from Colin Bond, that was through Hungary Corner. Keeping in mind that Dick hasn't had the best of days so far, but they've been able to repair the car. Johnson up to position number 9. We mentioned Mark Scaife started out at position number 22. He's now up to 11th. He is the Storm and Norman of the field as we pick up on Johnson moving up on the tail of the lone Mobile Commodore here this weekend. I pointed out in the earlier heat today, they had been running 2 cars, one for Peter Brock and one for Neil Crompton. And the second car was withdrawn because of not enough spares to go racing, which is indeed a pity.
You can't get much closer than that, Mike, and Dick a little bit having to hang on there and back off. It's very hard when you're accelerating through various corners to have the car in front of you back off a little bit, and there he's throwing himself around. He's going to try and sneak by here on the inside, hope that Peter will slide to the left, not taking any chances. Brogy's not throwing the Commodore around today. He may be a little bit tippy-toeing on his own tires, but Dick thrashing there now, using every little bit of the track and onto the slipstream here. Not particularly nice place to have to do it, but good on you, mate. Nailed him.
Good pass, too.
Very good pass. And now we'll take advantage of brakes, and Brogy looming up for another go, but he'll lose his momentum through the chicane here.
That's taken him up to 7th. Dick Johnson, who started well back in the pack, now up to 7th. Now, I would imagine as we get to about half distance in this race, the tyres on the John Bowe car will be tending to go away, and then Tony will come into his own. I think you can expect a pass from Tony, perhaps at, as we've seen at Hungary Corner, down through the inside or maybe the outside, depends how he sets himself up. But for the last couple of races, all Tony has seen is the back of the 18 car. He fixed that at Winton. We're working lap 10 of 28, Lakeside, heat number 2 today of round 5, and get set as Longhurst drills right in, sits in the slipstream, works to the outside. Watch him tuck back on the inside if he can do it. There is enough room, but there just wasn't at the tail end of the entrance to the corner, so one more lap will have to go by. And to be fair, Alan, it doesn't look like Richards is in fact running all that far away from John Bowe. Bowe may well be holding Longhurst up marginally. Richards is just up there in front.
Yeah, it's just about holding station, but Tony is starting to get a little agitated. You can see that wiggle, that wind up when he was going up under the bridge on the last lap. And he's got himself really strung. He's trying to wind it, trying to stay in that slipstream. Not gaining a lot of ground here, although he may just try. One of the moves he had earlier was getting up alongside cars in this part of the circuit, and now again getting closer and closer. He almost has to be on the bumper bar, but this is a savage part of the circuit. Very, very hard to control the car, and he's letting John Bowe know he's there. But Bowe has shown us over the last 2 heats that he's no mean driver. He keeps his shells here pointed, drives it extremely well, and Longhurst has got to find a way around.
JB's a great little driver, so too Tony. He's really a tiger in this. Brings out the best in Tony, make no doubt about that. He sits in the draft again. Gets a free ride down the front straight across the stripe as Bowe heads off into the left-hander. Here comes Tony under brakes. He just picks him up like you couldn't believe at the end of the straight, and then just gives him...
He's actually waiting for John to miss a gear change there, Mike. If he's just on his back bumper bar and John was to make the slightest mistake, he'll capitalize it. Now, he's closer now. Gary, you see how that he's twitching. The car is wound up. He's got
Here he goes.
Lateral force.
Oh, he has another look, and he really is determined, but again, hasn't quite got the speed to do it. Bow's got him covered.
I reckon Tony would be better off sending Bowie up for a pass on the inside if he could get him at the end of the front straight, because I'm sure John's convinced, well, ever he protects the entrance to Hungary, he's got Tony under control.
And Jim Richards just ahead of them now, starting to overhaul some of the slower traffic. So this is going to make it interesting for Bow and Longhurst as they get mixed up with these other cars.
Yeah, Richards is starting to disappear now. So he gained another car length or maybe two over in the last 2 laps.
Oh,
Here's
look at
Wilmington.
this. This is beautiful.
He's got him.
Down the inside.
Snooker.
Bad play, snooker, Gary, exactly. Not even in off. That was a beautiful snooker. And Tony found John Bow asleep at the wheel. Should have seen that on the horizon.
And now he's got Alan Jones all over him.
Yeah. Yeah, great little passing move there from Tony Longhurst. I tell you, poor old JB will hang his head in shame in the transporter later. Here comes Paul Morris through on the inside. He's driving a splendid race. The third of the B&H BMWs. As now AJ moves up on the tail of Johnny Bow.
Now that was a very nice ace. Tony was right on the ball there and close enough to take advantage.
Let's check them out for you on the Shell race score. Jimmy Richards, the race leader, marginally over Tony Longhurst. He's getting closer all the time. Johnny Bow is in third. Alan Jones is on his bumper, and Paul Morris is closing. We've got a heck of a race here. Don't go away. Side Raceway, we've reached half distance in round number 5, heat 2 of the Shell Series this afternoon. John Bow, who you saw before we went to the break, with Tony Longhurst nipping down the inside of him, or the outside as it was at the end of the front straight. Now Alan Jones has closed all over JB, and Paul Morris, his teammate, has joined on the freight train for one heck of a ride for the last half of this race. Now, where is Jones going to try and put the pressure on JB? He has time to have a little check out of things in the mirror. Gets away from Jones. That gives you an idea of the speed through the kink. Absolutely flat strap, doing 250 kilometres an hour. And then on the brakes into the right-hander at the carousel.
And up ahead of this lot, Tony Longhurst is now closed to about 2.5 seconds behind Jim Richards.
Without doubt, the best touring car race of season 92 so far. I know the weights and measures have been very, very controversial, with the Nissan copping a 100, as we see AJ down on the inside of car number 18, John Bow. But to be fair to the Cams boys, have taken heaps of stick this season. It really has closed up the racing. Whilst we don't necessarily go along with all the weights and so forth, but they have. It has produced a lot closer racing than previous years.
No question of that, man. And, any handicapping system is difficult, and the people doing it, of course, are always going to be criticized, no matter how the outcome.
Now Jones makes up ground on John Bow at different parts of the racetrack to Tony Longhurst. Tony was always on the tail here. But as they head down towards the Dunlop Bridge, AJ closes again. Paul Morris sits in to see what's going to happen. Dust everywhere here at Lakeside, and that is Jimmy Richards in car number 1, who appeared to have a brake lock up. He went off the circuit on the approach to the carousel. Now Richards is trying to claw his way back. Tony Longhurst has taken off like Tony the Tiger. He's put space between himself and the rest of the field so far after Richards. Let's have a look at the replay. We take the Nissan race cam out the back of Jimmy Richards' car, and he got the tail out.
Got wide on the exit of the right-hander, and just rode it out, and great driver that he is, he didn't hit that wall. Anybody else would have spearheaded themselves right into the bank, but he saved it. But naturally, Tony slipped by.
So the top 4 now running within about 4 or 5 seconds of each other. And Jim Richards trying to claw his way back on Tony Longhurst, race leader. Longhurst, of course, winner of the opening heat and looking to take out the points here in the 5th round of the championship.
Glenn Seaton just went past the start-finishing line. His engine sounding very much off song. 6th spot on the track at the moment. Now that could well have been the rev limiter, but it did really sound off as it came past. He's up to 6th, not having the best of weekends. I think maybe that weight penalty may be hurting Glenn. At the same time, I think Dickie Johnson has probably run his cars a little heavier than most, so whether or not he's had to actually add 50 or more like 20.
They've added some. I don't know the precise amount, but they are carrying lead in the back seat, so they've had to go up to meet the 1,200 kilo limit.
Down into the carousel, here's Dick Johnson carrying our Dunlop race cam. Just behind him is Glenn Seaton. We'll spin it around and have a look what Dick's doing.
And just ahead of him, Kevin Waldock.
Kevin locked up one on the way in by the look of it. Meanwhile, AJ works over John Bauer. Jones looking for a third spot on the rostrum here today. Now, he pokes the nose down on the inside. Oh, it sends him on his way.
I was waiting for that. Tony wasn't doing that. He'd earned his first 5,000 last round at Winton.
Ah, dearie me.
That was a little cheeky on Alan's part, but...
was just a touch. Let's have a look. Here he comes down on the inside. That was enough to set him on his way.
Yeah, Alan corrected and made sure he was fine, and the full force of the BMW got John Bauer on the back quarter panel, and that was it.
Whoop. Looks like the 35 car in a spot of bother there, Wayne Park, as they came off the carousel. So it's all happening here at Lakeside this afternoon. Jimmy Richards, who's still battling along there, running in second spot. So he's in the middle of a BMW sandwich at the moment. John Bauer's dropped back to fifth spot on the road after that little coming together with AJ on the approach to Hungary Corner.
Just watch the control on this car, Michael. It comes into every corner and just not the slightest bit of problem. It doesn't seem to be plowing at the front. It's not wagging the tail on the back. Jim using every ounce of ground available to him like every professional should. Right there on the white line as he's doing over 200k into the kink left-hander. Down under brakes here now. Car bobbing a little bit. That extra weight certainly making the springs work for themselves.
There's Jimmy at work. There are 4 laps to go. Nissan race cam as we ride with Jimmy Richards running in second. Longhurst the leader, and behind Jim is of course Alan Jones, the second of the B&H BMWs. Jim really does make it look ever so easy. That is the mark of a professional. Meanwhile, Paul Morris in the third of the Bimmers has actually got a feeling that he might challenge Jonesy.
Yeah, well, I hope that's all he has is a feeling, because if he would like to just pick up on a little bit of team management protocol,
although he's got a problem. I think where he's bumped the tyre of John Bauer.
It's up to him whether he wants to keep going. It's always it's quite nervous, but we saw that with the car earlier this morning when John Bauer had a rub. But it is particularly nervy for any driver to see that smoke pouring out.
3 laps to go.
And the BMW's in 3 of the top 4 positions.
Paul Morris certainly letting the world know that he can handle the job, doing a very nice job there, shadowing Alan Jones.
Coming down to Hungary Corner, I dare say that Paul might just drop in and play rear gunner to look after AJ.
He'll be getting half asphyxiated there with all that smoke that's blowing off Jones's tires.
Jones comes down, puts one more lap on the Commodore. As we take the Dunlop race cam, as Mark Scaife is trying to tear through the field. Dick Johnson is in 6th spot. This is the battle for 6th and 7th as they come down Motorcraft Hill. You might be able to see the speed difference now of the Sierra, and of course the Nissan GTR up to the kink. Not too much between them as they head down to the right-hander of the carousel. 2 laps to go. What has been an entertaining 2 heats today, and here's Mark Scaife all over Johnson.
See, absolutely lunging there through the carousel and up alongside the back guard. Said to be a little bit careful there passing traffic, but you can see the control at which he can go from one side of the track to the other and shadow Dick Johnson's every move here.
He's thinking about the inside, then the outside. He's all over Johnson. Here he comes up the outside. They've got 1 lap to go. Our Dunlop race cam tells the story.
Can't get any closer than that. He must be touching the bumper bar.
He's got Dick's come off the corner wide. He's left the gap open. He needs to get across to the inside, which he does. And they continue their battle as they come across the line. We go outside for this view of it. Dick going to the outside, trying to get the line for the next turn. The left-hander at the kink. He gets that perfect as he comes through here. Scaife right behind him. Meanwhile, our race leader's got about half a lap remaining. Tony Longhurst. The exit to the carousel. And once again, Scaife up. Feints a little look on the outside, tries to come back. In the meantime, Alan Jones, and here is Tony Longhurst. Last corner coming up. The dream team, the Benson and Hedges squad, coming out of the last corner, and it has been a fantastic day for Tony Longhurst. 2 heats, and he's come up a winner twice here today at Lakeside. Second spot is going to go to Jimmy Richards in the Winfield Nissan GTR, and third will go to Alan Jones in the second of the Benson and Hedges BMWs. They might have added 100 kilos to the Nissans, and they may have added 50 to the Sierras, but it has produced